Nick's Audiobook Collection, November 9th, 23. Chapter 830. The Calm Before the Storm. I'm done. Ramur and Legolas were still in a state of shock. They had just witnessed something incredible. Normally, if one absorbed an item like this, their entire body would be influenced. In Noel's case, he would be frozen, or at the very least, a few frostbite would appear on his body. But that didn't happen. They could see that Noel was using his spiritual energy to absorb it, so he must have been influenced in one way or another. The reason why he wasn't affected must be because of that necklace. Still, a normal necklace wouldn't be able to withstand the power of the ice jade. From the spiritual energy it exuded alone, the ice jade was far too extraordinary for a necklace that didn't look mystical at all. Yet, the necklace was able to contain that power and seal the power within it. Ramur and Legolas suddenly felt a glare coming from behind. It was none other than Dimitri. That was a warning from Dimitri, telling them not to be controlled by their greed. If they thought about getting that necklace and taking back their words, he would kill them here even if it meant fighting against the Atrocica kingdom. Ramur made a wry smile, saying, "Congratulations." Noel nodded with a calm expression even though he saw the greed in their eyes. He said, "The temperature has increased significantly. We should get moving right away." "That's right." Ramur glanced at Legolas. Legolas acknowledged the order and waved his hands. The sand started flowing into the room and carried a few people. "Legolas will bring a few people right away and send the rest of the people down later. Getting all these people can be done within 1 hour, so rest assured," Ramur explained. Noel agreed with him and immediately climbed to the higher floor again, ready to launch his next plan. Meanwhile, Legolas showed the people about the frozen people. He asked a few strong spirit wielders and masters to help him carry all these people so that they could be brought back to the kingdom. Since they had to carry them more than 10 floors, only spirit wielders or above could do it with their abilities. Ramur stayed above, organizing the rest of the people while preparing to bring them outside. After all, they had to go through that small tunnel to go outside. The process was very quick and Noel didn't have to take too long. While waiting, Noel asked his spirits, "How is it? Heisk is in the middle of absorbing it. While you can still wield her power, she won't be able to respond to you. How about you, Artigan? I think this is the first time I've asked this. Do you feel anything when Heisk absorbs something and vice versa? You both are residing within my body after all. You don't have to worry about us. We are in a separate realm, so we won't be affected at all. Only when you visit us do we go to that one realm to match your consciousness." "I see. There are a lot of things I don't know about spirits." Noel might have done a lot to know the spirits from their ranks to their abilities, but he had never questioned the environment. Unfortunately, he didn't have time to explore all that. He only asked, "I have one important question for you, Artigan. If I somehow die without an heir, what will happen to you? If I'm not wrong, you are related to the Artigan family, right?" "Yes. While I have consciousness and anyone can actually wield me if I allow it, the spirit god has tasked me to protect the bloodline. But if there is no more in your family's bloodline, I will be taken back to the spirit world." "I see. Since you're directly connected to the spirit god, will that affect the other spirits in this world?" "Not at all. I'm just one among many spirits. Humans have survived for countless millennia, so they will be able to survive even without me. Though, I wish that you can continue to survive." Noel fell silent and couldn't help but ask, "Why did you choose me?" "I was lazy. In fact, my father looked like a better fit to be your host. After all, the spirit conversion rate doesn't apply to you since you can boost the other spirit's conversion rate. If you manage to synchronize with my true spirit body, I will tell you the answer." Noel made a wry smile. "You know what? You've always told me like this a lot of times. Like I'm not strong enough to handle the truth." "No, I admit that I'm not strong enough, but it shouldn't affect my progress, right? After all, knowing oneself can allow you to progress even further." "It's not like that. While there are times that the truth will bring danger to you, you don't have to be strong enough to know the truth. What I want you to know is that you have a quality that you haven't seen. So, you're telling me that you will tell me about it after being able to use the true spirit body?" "Something like that." Noel sighed. "All right. Sometimes, I wish that you could be more open. I know that I might not be the best host to learn about you and other spirits, but sometimes, I won't know if you don't tell me about it. I will remember that. I also sincerely wish for that day to come." Noel smiled, hoping the same. He took a deep breath and checked the progress. Legolas seemed to have extracted about 250 bodies. The people were also shocked to see demi-humans, but they could only follow orders since Legolas and the second prince were the ones overseeing this matter. Since they were about to finish, Noel said to Dimitri, "You can use your shadow to leave, right?" "Yes. But Keel should be able to see through it. How far do we have to go until she is unable to find you?" "If I'm not wrong, her range of vision is about 2 kilometers. Are you confident going like that for 2 kilometers before anyone catches up?" Dimitri looked down, contemplating. Considering Keel's weapon, she should be a bit far away as well. If I move in the opposite direction, I should be able to do that. No. Don't go in the opposite direction. Pretty sure that she will station that other devil saint in that place. Dimitri changed this plan immediately. In that case, I will change my direction depending on their position. Yeah, but there is one more thing. This is probably the only way we can fool them and move away. Noel waved his hand, asking Dimitri to move closer. Dimitri lowered his head as Noel whispered his plan in his ear. The plan shocked Dimitri a bit, not expecting this kind of plan. But it might actually work since Keel would be focused on him. Even if he had to fight against both Keel and Nelfer, Dimitri had enough strength to escape without using the true spirit body. And it seemed that Noel had also planned another route for Tristan and Sandra. He didn't know how long this could work, but he knew this was their chance. While Dimitri and Noel discussed their strategy, Keel, Nelfer, and the rest of the group had been observing the ruin from a distance. "This is too hot. Are we still going to wait here? Why don't we just crush the building or even infiltrate that place? I know that the ones leading the expedition are somewhat special, but we can somehow capture our target without harming them, right? After all, we have 2 devil saints and several devil bishops and devil inspectors. You are underestimating them too much. Dimitri might have a hard time breaking your defense, but that Noel is not ordinary either. I shot him once, but he looked fine after blocking it. While it's not a lethal arrow, it contains all spiritual energy I could put into my arrow. In other words, his strength is like a spirit grandmaster, perhaps even stronger than the devil bishops we've brought here. So, we will have to wait for a period of time so that they almost forget about us before infiltrating the ruins." "Ho?" Nelfer raised his eyebrows. "He could have that strength while he is only a spirit master? What will happen once he reaches spirit grandmaster or even gains the true spirit body? That's how it is. If we let him grow, it'll become troublesome. And I heard he is planning to rebuild the Artigan family. There is a chance that he will reassemble all the powerhouses. So, it won't be easy to fight the Artigan family as well. I heard about it. While the royal family and 2 duke families that contained strong arbiters were hard to fight, the most annoying one was the Artigan family. That's why we have to succeed in this mission. If not, the hurdle will increase drastically the next time we try this thing again." "Got it. I'll do my best to stop Dimitri. Unless he can chop me, he won't be able to bother you and the rest." Keel nodded in agreement before noticing something. Her eyes started shining again as if she had seen something. "You should go into your position," Keel ordered. "What's wrong?" Nelfer asked. "I saw Dimitri looking around. He must be searching for our position. I thought we had to infiltrate the ruins once they forgot about us, but it seemed that we could capture them directly. Hee. I'm getting fired up." Nelfer smirked before disappearing from the area. Chapter 831, Battle of Wits. Keel narrowed her eyes when she noticed another movement from the ruins' direction. "Wait, isn't that?" Legolas had first split the group into 2. The first group entered the ruin with him, while the second group maintained the security of the area. The second group hadn't made any other moves, showing that they were waiting for Legolas. Additionally, since a few hours had passed, the sky had begun to turn dark. Dimitri would become even more powerful during the dark. It was true that the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. But when it was dark, it would be hard to differentiate the shadow, making him able to blend in. That was why Keel had to be careful during the nighttime. It was clear that Dimitri was planning to make a run for it. Keel drew her bow, aiming at the ruin. Although she didn't plan to destroy the ruin, she would definitely shoot if Noel was there. Even Dimitri would have a hard time protecting Noel in this siege. But this was the exact reason why any variable might ruin her plan. And the first group that Legolas brought in earlier began to emerge from the ruin. They were actually taking out a lot of frozen statues. Those figures had been covered in a thick layer of ice. Keel's body trembled. She had clashed with Dmitri a few times in the past. Dmitri might be clever, but not this clever. She instantly saw through the trick that had transpired inside the ruin. The fact that the people brought out those fragile frozen people meant she couldn't shoot at the ruin. While she could shoot a non-lethal arrow and just use shock waves to blow away normal people without killing them, she was practically a cannon. A single shot from her would produce an impact that would shatter the fragile ice statues. If she truly shot them, it was the same as picking a fight against the Adrasika kingdom. Kyo gritted her teeth, realizing that Noel must be the one who thought about this plan. It seemed that the report of him outsmarting Lao Fei was not a lie. Ultimately, Kyo lowered her bow while keeping on the lookout. She might not be able to shoot, but she could still order the people to move. You guys get ready. The moment I find a single trace of that little brat, you're going to chase after him. The devil bishops and devil inspectors nodded their heads furiously. More and more ice statues were brought out from the ruin. Obviously, the ice statues piqued everyone's interest, so they ended up surrounding the first group, trying to get a look at these statues. The more crowded it became, the harder Keel could find Noel and Dmitri. This was basically the battle of wits between Keel and Noel. Not long after, Ramur came out and shouted, "I am the second son of the Grand Protector, Ramur. We have found a trace of the previous civilization. Hence, I'm going to order all of you to carry everything to the nearest city. We'll use the temperature of the night to maintain their condition until we reach the city. Get ready to move out." Ramur's order shocked everyone, but the night in the desert was extremely cold. So, it was indeed perfect to maintain the ice. It was probably the reason why Noel negotiated with Ramur at dusk. He wanted to give the reason for Ramur to come out during the night. This is getting trickier than I expected. That little brat is smarter than reported. Are they going to use the group to escape? After seeing the current situation, Keel felt like Noel's plan wasn't so simple. No, they don't seem to be using them to escape. If that's the case, the future Artigan family will bear the wrath of the Atrasika kingdom as well. After all, those ice statues are valuable resources. They must be planning to escape through this confusion or... When Keel thought about it, she saw a fluctuation of energy. Keel's eyes not only could see from far away, but she could also see the flow of spiritual energy. And currently, there was a change in the middle of the crowd. It must be Dmitri. Without hesitation, Keel aimed her bow at the crowd. She was waiting patiently, fully knowing that Dmitri would leave the crowd and make a run for it. The town is in the south. I'm currently in the west, and Nelfer is waiting for them in the east. The ruin might not be big, but they still have to loop around if they want to go to the north. Keel smirked. She had positioned perfectly, limiting Noel and Dimitri's movement. As she expected, Dmitri suddenly launched himself to the east. There he is! Keel could see the shadow that used the darkness to cover its presence, moving in Nelfer's direction. She thought she managed to read Dmitri completely, and aimed at him, ready to support Nelfer. However, Dimitri's ability didn't allow her to see whether he brought Noel with him or not. There was a chance that Noel was hiding among the crowd or even staying in the ruin to wait for them to pass. While she was still thinking, Dmitri made an abrupt change. He suddenly stopped and changed his direction to the south. What? He suddenly shifts his direction to the town. Did he notice Nelfer and change his direction? Or, Keel gasped, thinking of another possibility. That little brat might be with him, and he figured out my plan and changed his approach. Dmitri couldn't unleash his full speed in the shadow form, but that was enough to make him hard to be found. Even Nelfer wouldn't notice him changing direction. Unfortunately for him, Keel wouldn't allow him to escape. You might have surprised me, but you haven't exceeded my imagination. Keel smirked and released her bow. She had to shoot him before Dmitri left her range. The arrow flew like a cannon, but because the arrow was made of light, it left a trail in the darkness, startling the crowd. Before the crowd could react, the arrow had reached its direction. But since the distance was extremely far away, there was a small window of time that allowed Dmitri to avoid the arrow. Boom! The arrow exploded, startling everyone. However, the shadow managed to avoid the arrow, albeit barely. The effect was shown when the shadow stopped for a moment as if it was trying to get its stability. After that, the shadow continued on its way before Keel released another shot. As expected, you could avoid that. Keel clicked her tongue, but her annoyed expression soon turned into a smile as she said, "But, that shot is not to hit you, Dmitri. As she said those words, the shadow that had just left Keel's firing range came to a halt. A figure suddenly fell from the sky and punched the sand. Bam! The punch was so strong that it caused an eruption. All the sand on the surface was kicked up, including the shadow. Due to the change in the terrain, the shadow had to revert to its original form. Do you think you can get away? The one who knocked the sand was none other than Nelfer. That was right. The arrow that Keel shot earlier was not to hit Dmitri but to alert Nelfer. Now that Nelfer had stood in front of Dmitri, he would be able to stop him. But surprisingly, Dmitri came out alone. Keel was stunned. She had expected that Noel would be Dmitri due to that abrupt change in direction. But he was nowhere to be seen. Wait a minute. Is he using Dmitri as a distraction? Keel became hesitant, trying to figure out what Noel was thinking. Meanwhile, Dmitri ended up releasing all his spiritual energy as the shadow began to leak out from his body. With a gaze filled with killing intent, he stated with a cold tone, "I'm getting annoyed. If you think you can stop me from leaving, then try it." Nelfer smirked as he also released his spiritual energy, not planning to lose against Dmitri. While those two were about to clash, Keel was actually panicking. If Dmitri is only a decoy, that little brat must be trying to do something. Keel hurriedly returned her gaze to the crowd, trying to locate Noel. But because the crowd was stunned and more people came out, it was impossible to locate him. So, Keel shouted, "You guys immediately go to that crowd and try to find Noel Artigan. Even if he can disguise his appearance, you can still find him among the spirit masters." The group acknowledged the order. But before they left, Keel suddenly stopped them. Wait. The group became confused, but Keel seemed to be coming up with another plan. It's impossible to escape by himself from me. So, there are only two possibilities. He can disguise himself as one of those people, or use the building to fool all of us. Keel gasped, seeing through Noel's plan. She corrected her order, split into two groups. The first group will search for him in that crowd, while the second group will investigate the ruin. Check every corner and wall to see if he is drilling the hole and escaping from underneath the sand. This time, the group left and divided themselves. As one would expect from Keel, the strategist of the Supreme Devil Organization, she could see through Noel's plan, who wanted to escape by using the sand as his cover. However, would Noel be easy to catch? Or would Noel outsmart an opponent like her this time? Chapter 832, Escape. Legolas felt the incoming people and turned his head around. However, the operation was so swift that the entire group entered the crowd, trying to mingle with them so that they were hard to find. He cursed them inwardly. Damn it. The Supreme Devil Organization. I'm going to make you pay. Legolas tried to search for them but to no avail. He didn't realize that the first group had begun their investigation, trying to find Noel among the people. The second group had sneaked inside the building, trying to find any proof that Noel would use the sand to escape. Unbeknownst to them, no matter how hard they tried to find him, it would be impossible to find Noel. Keel, who observed the entire scene, couldn't help but furrow her eyebrows. Dmitri was already outside her range, but she was still able to see Dmitri clashing with Nelfer. It seemed that Dmitri was planning to leave this place, but there was no way someone loyal like Dmitri would leave his lord just like that. Still, why is Dmitri leaving? Is he going to find reinforcement? But no one in that town has the ability to stop us. Keel turned to the ruin. Is he still there? But with his intellect, he should be able to see himself being captured. No, he might be waiting to ambush us. He should know that we will have to split up the group. But I have told them to avoid a direct conflict, and if they find anything, the first priority would be to regroup. On the one hand, Keel had prepared the best plan she could afford. On the other hand, she couldn't see through Noel's plan yet. Unbeknownst to her, Noel was already outside the ruin. In fact, he was already near the town. The town was quite peaceful. Not far from it, a person's head emerged from the sand with a box covering its entire face. That was the only way to prevent the sand from entering his nose, ears, mouth, or eyes. This person was none other than Noel. He hurriedly pulled himself out while looking back. Keel might be able to see the fluctuation of spiritual energy with her eyes, but it was impossible to find Noel. After all, Noel had actually been submerged. That was right. The moment the crowd formed, Noel sneaked out of the ruin and immediately buried himself in the sand. As for how he moved underneath the sand, it was his ruined body. When Dmitri asked previously, Noel pointed at his body, specifically at the Enhance Forward rune. Noel had actually used that rune to propel himself. He changed direction by employing the trick that he learned from Damien, where he could launch himself in any direction depending on the direction he pointed at. As a result, he was moving underneath Dimitri the whole time. When Nelfer appeared in front of Dimitri and smashed the ground, Noel was actually underneath both of them. Dimitri then released his full power to make everyone think he was trying to escape. Meanwhile, the real reason was to actually cover the entire area with his spiritual energy, confusing both Nelfer and Keel. Nelfer would be overwhelmed and his focus would remain on Dimitri. On the other hand, Keel wouldn't be able to find Noel's fluctuation of spiritual energy when using the Enhance Forward rune in that situation. By the time Noel left the area, Keel wouldn't be able to sense him anymore. In other words, the key factor in Noel's escape was none other than Dimitri. Everything was a distraction. As for Dimitri, there was no way Keel and Nelfer were enough to defeat him. Additionally, Keel was still hesitant to attack Dimitri because she was focusing on Noel. Still, Noel coughed up blood. He was indeed below Nelfer and Dimitri earlier, and Nelfer's powerful strike hit him as well. He had been enduring it, but he couldn't contain it anymore. While wiping the blood on his mouth, Noel assessed his current condition. There is no broken bone, fortunately. There is some bleeding, but I should be able to repair it with force control. Noel smiled. While circulating his spiritual energy, he headed straight to the inn where Tristan and Sandra were hiding. Tristan. Upon hearing his teacher's voice, Tristan hurriedly opened the door, finding his injured master. Master! Tristan panicked, not knowing what to do. We don't have time. The enemies have located us. Are we going to leave this place? Yes. But you and Sandra will have to go alone. I have to distract them away so that they don't find both of you. But Tristan was thankful for Noel's kindness the whole time, so he would never think about abandoning Noel. However, Noel added, "This is my order. You two are to go to this city within 2 weeks." Noel took out the map and pointed at the location, while handing them money and some demon crystals. "You should have seen how I entered the city where we first met, so use that experience to reach your destination. Don't take risks and go to this town first, and use escorts to reach the next destination. Understood? But how about you, Master?" Tristan asked with a pale expression. "I have my own plan, so you don't have to worry about me. In fact, you should worry about yourself because your roles will be crucial." Noel moved to the table and wrote down a letter. "I want you to send this letter as well. The address and everything have been written down." "Are we going right now, Master?" Tristan asked. "Of course not. The night is extremely cold and treacherous. That's why you will go after the sun is up. In fact, you will receive another instruction and will use them to escape. I have given you separate instructions in the letter. That's all. You have to think about how to survive yourself. This is another test from me. Are you ready?" Tristan clenched his fists. The current situation had shown how dangerous it was to follow Noel. If he succeeded, he would be able to become Noel's disciple and an important figure in this field. No one would dare to look down on him even if he was a former slave. If he failed, he would die, which should have happened if he hadn't met Noel in the first place. Tristan looked at Sandra first, who seemed to be determined to change her life. He said, "We will do it. We'll certainly not disappoint you, Master." "Good." Noel nodded in approval. "Then I have to go now. Remember, the situation will be dangerous." "Yes, Master." Tristan nodded with a serious expression. "I'm sorry that I can only be a burden right now." Hearing Tristan's words couldn't help but put a smile on Noel's face. He patted Tristan's head while saying, "The next lesson will be hard." After saying those words, Noel left the inn and erased his trace before heading out of the city and to the south, where the Akasika Kingdom's capital was. Meanwhile, Tristan clenched his fists. Noel might word it that way, but he was actually indirectly telling him that he wished Tristan would become his disciple. The word next indicated it. He swore that he wouldn't disappoint his master. On the other hand, Dimitri had been fighting Nelfer the whole time. Clink, clink, clink. A series of clicking sounds echoed in the area as Dimitri struck Nelfer multiple times. Nelfer was panting. As Keel said, fighting Dimitri was hard. In fact, the darkness empowered Dimitri even further. His entire body was covered with wounds. Despite having a body of steel, Dimitri managed to pierce his body. If this continued, Dimitri would be able to kill him sooner or later. Unfortunately, Dimitri didn't have much time anymore. Keel would become restless, so she would definitely come here and hunt him down. That was why, after inflicting some damage on Nelfer, he formed his escape route. The moment Keel moved from her location, Dmitri instantly turned around and escaped to the south. "No, you can't escape from me." Nelfer chased after him, but Dmitri was extremely swift. It didn't take too long before they saw the town where Tristan and Sandra were. "Huh!" Nelfer gasped while a few light arrows fell down in front of Dmitri, causing a series of explosions. Boom! 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 Dmitri launched himself to avoid the blast before continuing his way to the town. "Stop!" Nelfer used his steel body to ignore the blast and caught up to Dmitri. However, Dmitri actually struck him while asking, "Are you really going to destroy a city?" Nelfer's body trembled. He personally wouldn't mind razing the entire city to the ground, but Keel had reminded him over and over again that they shouldn't make this kingdom their enemy. That hesitation allowed Dmitri to escape once more and ultimately enter the city. Nelfer was shocked and wanted to catch up, but Keel's voice echoed from the side. "Stop, Nelfer." "Keel." Nelfer glared at her. "Are we going to let him escape like that? Do you think you will be able to kill Dmitri inside the town? He is the most dangerous when he is among the people." Keel was also annoyed, feeling like she had been played thoroughly by Noel and Dmitri. "There is a chance that little brat has escaped to the town. I don't know the exact method, but that brat must have gone away. We will need more people to find them. I have sent a message to Group D and E. We'll monitor the town for the time being." Chapter 833, Hidden Message. "How is the situation?" Nelfer asked while looking at the city from the roof of one of the buildings. "We can't find him yet." Keel shook her head. "It's practically impossible to find him in the city. We should have just let our people inside and checked every single person." Nelfer harumphed. "This is why you are not the leader of this expedition. You would definitely die in Dmitri's hand." Keel snorted. Just from his words alone, she could imagine Nelfer bringing all his subordinates inside the city. When they traveled inside the city, a person suddenly moved alongside them. In just a split second, there was a fluctuation of energy as a blade sent one head flying. After noticing that change, Nelfer and the others turned around, albeit finding nothing. After that, Nelfer became angry and tried to search for Dmitri. But they didn't realize that Dmitri was still among the crowd. Dmitri attacked them once again, killing another person. Out of anger, Nelfer tried to chase after Dmitri and turned in a junction, only to find Dmitri disappear among the crowd. At that time, Dmitri would take out another person. Eventually, Nelfer's subordinates would die in Dmitri's hands. Even Nelfer would definitely die if he wasn't careful. As a result, a single person managed to weaken the Supreme Devil organization. Dmitri would definitely use guerrilla warfare to his advantage. Just thinking about it gave her a headache. Keel bit her lips, wanting to berate Nelfer. But since she was the one leading this operation, she had to remain calm. It was impossible to find Dmitri without casualties. However, there was one thing that confused her. Is Dmitri hiding in this place to kill us? No, wait. If we wait here for too long, the Supreme Devil organization will have trouble. After all, we're still fighting against the Demon Banner army openly. With 2 Devil Saints away from the organization, it was clear that the Supreme Devil organization would be at a huge disadvantage. It seemed that Noel had seen through their condition and knew they couldn't do this in a prolonged time. Wait a minute. Is he going to hide here forever? No, if we're talking about Noel Artigan, I don't think he has that much time either. The sun was already up, so the people began to come out of their houses to do their daily activities. However, as one would expect, the plaza was actually surrounded by people as they displayed a few ice statues while trying to resurrect the others. It was clear that they were trying to showcase the result of the expedition. This would increase the second prince's reputation. However, the second prince and Legolas had yet to complete their expedition. It was true that they had gotten the most important things, but the ruins were still full of treasure. So, they were still assembling people to do another exploration. And among the crowd, Keel could actually find another spirit grandmaster. Huh! Keel narrowed her eyes. Is that Dmitri? Nelfer tilted his head in confusion. But Keel actually pointed at a certain person who was actually another spirit grandmaster among the people. We have investigated the city before going to the ruin, right? Nelfer asked. Yeah. And the result is that no one other than the Great Protector was a spirit grandmaster. Nelfer fell silent before moving to the edge of the roof. I'm going. Wait, Nelfer. The fact that he is openly showing himself means that there might be a trap. Keel tried to stop him, but Nelfer added, "If that's the case, I will fall into his trap." Just like Keel said, the moment he said those words, Dmitri suddenly disappeared. However, the fluctuation continued to the south as if it was trying to leave the city. Keel widened her eyes in shock. She hadn't processed the change yet, but the other party had made a move. "This is bad. You can stay here. Try to find a spirit master in the town. Since Dmitri is trying to leave the town, you should be able to explore the city and find the fluctuation of a spirit master, right?" Nelfer asked. "I'll keep Dmitri outside the city." "All right." Keel could only agree, not being able to think of another plan better than that. She never expected she would have this much trouble just to capture Noel. It seemed the reason why Lao Fei couldn't capture him previously was because of this. And if she ended up failing like Lao Fei, the next time they tried to capture Noel would be extremely hard. After seeing Dmitri leaving the city, Keel hurriedly signaled the rest of the group to begin their search. They had to find all the spirit masters inside the town, and make sure no spirit masters left the town. Even if they had to leave, they needed to be inspected. While the Supreme Devil Organization was searching for Noel, who had already gone, the second prince and Legolas chose to fulfill the promise to Noel, which was to give a letter to the designated person. However, before they sent it, they checked the content. It was morally wrong, but it didn't matter because they were suspicious of Noel and wondered who were the ones connected to him. When they opened the letter, they couldn't help but be surprised by its content. It looked like a parting message from Noel, but he actually gave him a few runes. "This is rune, right?" Legolas asked. "Yeah. However, I'm not sure what this rune is. Who is this person to be able to get a rune from the author of the rune book?" Ramur frowned. "Do you want me to investigate them?" Legolas asked. "Currently, we have no manpower because of those frozen statues. For the time being, copy the runes on this letter and send the letter to this person. After that, just put 1 or 2 people around that area to make sure that person doesn't leave. After dealing with these frozen statues, we will begin the investigation about that person." "Understood." Legolas nodded and took the letter. As he ordered, Legolas asked someone to copy the rune before giving the letter to another subordinate to deliver. A few minutes later, Legolas' subordinate had arrived at a certain inn where Tristan and Sandra were. He knocked on the door, which happened to be opened by Tristan. "Is there something wrong?" Tristan asked. The other party took a glance at the room that didn't seem to have another person other than Tristan. So, he handed the letter while saying, "This is given to you." "Oh? Thanks." Tristan looked confused while receiving the letter and checked the sender before politely bowing his head. "Thank you." Seeing his reaction, it was clear that Tristan was connected to Noel Artigan. After confirming it, he left Tristan alone and went downstairs, where his comrade stayed. "How is it? I have delivered the letter. It's true that he is related to him. Then, should we wait here? He has seen my face, so I will wait outside. You can stay here and make sure that person doesn't leave the inn." "All right." The two split up as the one delivering the letter was watching the inn from the outside. Meanwhile, Tristan was happy that he finally got the letter Noel was talking about. Sandra suddenly came out from her hiding spot, which was under the bed. "Is it all right now?" Sandra asked. "And what does it say?" Tristan opened the letter and read it. "Can you even read it?" Sandra asked. "Of course." Tristan nodded with a serious expression. This was the part where Tristan's extraordinary memory showed its might. Dmitri had been teaching him language, manners, and other necessities. However, everything related to memory, like language, could easily be absorbed by Tristan. Although his reading ability wasn't at the level of someone who had read for a long time, he could easily recognize words that were usually spoken. He read it with a low tone so that Sandra could hear it as well. "Tristan, I'm sorry that I can't go with you anymore because of a problem. Although it's only for a brief period, I'll be leaving. Because I can't fulfill my side of the agreement, you can take this rune as compensation." "Huh? Is that all?" Master Noel said that he has given us the instructions in the letter, right? Sandra asked, feeling confused. She couldn't understand the words or even the runes, so she only listened to what Tristan said. Unexpectedly, Tristan suddenly fell silent when he saw the runes. Tristan seemed to have noticed something. This rune is supposed to be the chain bind rune. But there are a few strokes that are different. This one is the muscle enhancement rune, and just like the previous one. Tristan suddenly understood what Noel said about the instruction. MOVE. Tristan could actually find 4 characters that joined together to create the word move in the chain bind rune. Tristan could remember the exact details of the chain bind rune, so it was easy to find the difference. In fact, Noel had been teaching him by spotting the difference between runes and correcting all the mistakes. It turned out Noel had given the instruction inside the runes. Others would be able to find it out sooner or later, but only Tristan could see through the hidden messages in an instant. This was truly the message Noel left behind. Sorry, Sandra. Please give me some time. I have to decipher Master's secret message. I understand. Sandra didn't understand the secret message, but it seemed that Noel had trusted Tristan that much, which was something to be happy about. Just like Kiel, Noel was planning to outsmart the second prince and Legolas through this letter in order for Tristan and Sandra to leave the city safely. Chapter 834, Escaping the Town. One of Legolas' subordinates, who remained inside the inn, was watching the stairs calmly. His partner had described Tristan's appearance, so as long as he could see him from here, it should be enough. Still, it seemed that Tristan didn't plan to go out. In fact, there wasn't a single person coming down for the time being. Considering the time, it was normal to have no activities around their lodging, but waiting for an unspecified period of time made him a bit bored. Whether it was fortunate or unfortunate, there was something that piqued his interest. One of the tenants actually went down. This tenant had long brown hair and a pair of black eyes. Her skin was also tanned, but she was too tall to be called a kid. In addition, she was a female, unlike Tristan, and wore a masquerade. She covered her body with a coat as if not planning to let the sun burn her skin. The guy looked at her for a moment before shrugging his shoulders. He thought Tristan, but it was clear that the other party was a woman. Hence, he didn't even bother to check her. The woman walked gracefully to the outside and met another man. However, his partner should have seen this woman inside. Thinking that the woman was actually another customer, that guy simply ignored her. Hence, the woman walked away with a calm expression. After a few hundred meters, she turned around and headed to a small alley. The woman hid behind a bunch of barrels where she uncovered her body. It turned out the woman was made of 2 people. There was a guy who had been carrying her, and her hands were holding a cup each, gently forming her curves under the coat. As soon as they thought it was safe, they finally revealed their true appearances. Yes, they were none other than Sandra and Tristan. This was one of Noel's instructions. How is it? Sandra asked. It's perfect. For now, we'll go to the North Gate and leave this city through the expedition according to Master's words. Tristan nodded with a serious expression. What made the woman look like a mature one was the size. Tristan made up the height while a backpack made up their general body line, causing Sandra to look like a mature woman. They stored the coat inside the backpack while saying, "Let's go. I'll carry the bag for now. You will act as a lady who is employing me as your slave." "All right." Sandra agreed with the arrangement. They hurriedly sneaked around and headed to the north of the city, where a lot of people assembled. Sandra continued using the masquerade to change her appearance while giving the air of a more refined lady. Meanwhile, Tristan was following right behind her. Because of their clothes, no one thought they were slaves. It didn't take too long for them to reach the assembly where they were gathering the second wave of the expedition to investigate the ruin. Tristan and Sandra casually blended among them as if they were parts of them. Unbeknownst to them, there was a middle-aged man who was suddenly walking behind them. The man glared at them for a bit before moving away. If they were stronger, they would have noticed the man and the fact that he was scanning their ability. Unfortunately for him, the 2 kids were completely normal. As a result, they managed to blend in well without anyone suspecting them. After another 2 hours, they finally went on the expedition, heading straight to the ruin. Due to the combined efforts in the previous subjugation, there wasn't a single demon appearing on their way, allowing all of them to reach the ruin without any casualties. The group immediately ordered the people to enter the ruin and investigate them, trying to extract everything they could find. Following the plan, Sandra looped around the building and sneaked out with Tristan, leaving the city and the ruin with no one suspecting them. Their plan was to head to the nearest city according to Noel's instruction. Still, Noel had asked them to move to the north for a bit even after they couldn't see the ruin or the city anymore. After that, they turned around and headed east. "We are safe, right?" Sandra asked. "Yeah. If I remember correctly, there should be a few people staring at us. Luckily, we have managed to fool them." Tristan let out a sigh of relief. He couldn't help but recall the message he deciphered from the letter. Move north for 5 kilometers, turn east. Head to Liop town. This was one of the instructions that Noel had given them in the letter. There were other instructions that had been left, but this was the first step. Of course, the night Noel visited, he also told them something else. In the morning, I'm sure that there will be someone delivering my letter. It contains my instructions in order to reach the rendezvous point. But when you receive the letter, I only want Tristan to open the door while Sandra hides somewhere in the room. After that, Tristan will carry Sandra as she wears the masquerade. Use the coat to cover your look and act as casually as possible as if you don't know anything. Once you come out, find a quiet alley to become 2 people again and head to the north. There will be an assembly for the expedition, and since the demons have been exterminated, it should be pretty safe. Once you reach the ruin, follow the route I've left behind in the letter. Understood? When recalling the plan, Tristan couldn't help but smile. It seems that Master is extremely smart. How can he predict all this even though we only have a limited amount of time to meet? That's true. But aren't you going to become his student? Sandra smirked. Right. I'm feeling blessed and I'll definitely not disappoint him. Tristan clenched his fists. We have enough food and water to reach the next destination as well as money to hire escorts to our real destination. Can your body keep up? I have long since recovered. I can handle this much. In fact, I will help you carry the bag along the way. Sure, let's go. Both Tristan and Sandra continued their journey. They might not be sure about it, but they had escaped from Legolas and the Supreme Devil Organization. With their disguise, they easily fooled Legolas' subordinates. And when someone from the Supreme Devil Organization checked them, they were only kids without proper strength. Hence, they wouldn't be Noel, considering they were also 2 people and the boy didn't have anything that covered his face. Still, no matter how hard Noel tried to fool them, they were bound to notice sooner or later. After all, even if the kids didn't need to go out, they still needed to eat. So, Legolas' subordinate felt a bit weird when he found the kid remained in his room even after the day was almost over. Ultimately, he decided to make a direct approach and try to find Tristan in the room through the window. But to his surprise, there wasn't any trace of Tristan left inside the room. He was completely shocked because he didn't see Tristan coming out, but the kid miraculously disappeared. Without hesitation, they reported to Legolas. The news soon reached the second prince's ears, who immediately ordered to search the town. Even though they had limited manpower, they had to find Tristan, considering he was the only person who was trustworthy enough to get the runes from the author himself. As a result of Tristan's disappearance, Ramur also doubted the letter and asked it to be checked. The mobilization of their forces in order to find Tristan ended up alerting the Supreme Devil Organization, who was still looking for any trace of Noel inside the town. Standing on top of the roof, Keel asked her subordinate, who had just appeared next to her, "What's wrong? Why are they mobilizing their troops? Did something happen to those frozen figures?" "No. It seems they are searching for a kid. We don't know the real identity of that kid yet." Keel looked down, contemplating. What kind of kid could make them mobilize their troops? Is it that brat? After a moment, Keel ordered him, "Bring Azak and Nezca here. I'll infiltrate the Great Protector's building and find out about the identity of that person and the reason." Her subordinate disappeared carrying her order. Keel later found out about Tristan and Noel's relationship with him. However, it was too late. The so-called Tristan had gone too far and they didn't know where Noel would send him. And since Tristan could become a burden, Keel thought Tristan was sent to the Muval Kingdom directly. As a result, she sent 2 subordinates to track Tristan, thinning her group even further. Meanwhile, Keel remembered the direction Dimitri went and Nelfer was still chasing after him without fighting him. He perfectly knew that Nelfer would die if he was reckless. In that instant, he finally realized what Noel planned to do. He had been trying to divide their group, wanting to eliminate Nelfer before fighting back. Keel panicked and immediately assembled her subordinates before chasing after Nelfer. It turned out her prediction was correct. They had brought a total of 50 people into this kingdom that was split into 2 groups. Nelfer had brought one group that was tasked to investigate another city. But when they reached Nelfer, he found Nelfer badly injured. 8 people had died under Dimitri, while 2 were heavily injured. It was a complete defeat. Keel's face became pale, finally understanding the threat Noel possessed.